They arrived on my doorstep carrying a ghost, the ghost of the family we never were. My mother, Gloria, held a decorative tin of cookies like a holy relic, her smile a brittle, rehearsed thing I hadn't seen since I was a child. My father, Gerald, stood behind her, dressed for a corporate takeover, not a daughter's living room. And my sister, Madison, was already on her phone, her disinterest a familiar, painful armor. They weren't here for me. They were here for the $3 million they believed was theirs, and I was about to use the very legal documents they despised to teach them the true meaning of inheritance. The doorbell chimed at exactly 2 p.m., a sound that usually meant a package delivery. Instead, it heralded an invasion of false nostalgia. Virginia, my mother cooed, her voice dripping with a saccharine sweetness usually reserved for telemarketers she couldn't immediately hang up on. We've missed you terribly. Can we come in? What could I do? I stepped aside, and they filed into the home I'd built for myself, a home they had never once visited, never helped me buy, never asked to see. For 3 years, my existence here had been a silent fact they ignored. Now, they were complimenting the hardwood floors, the crown molding, the view from the bay window. Each praise felt like a violation, a lie so thick I could taste it. We settled into an awkward tableau in my living room. Mom placed the cookie tin on the coffee table with the solemnity of a priest offering a sacrament. Dad crossed his legs, exuding a casual ownership he hadn't earned. Madison's eyes darted around, and I could see the mental calculations, assessing the value of the art, the furniture, the very air. The small talk was a flimsy raft on a sea of unspoken agendas. They talked about the unseasonably warm weather, the traffic on the freeway, Madison's recent promotion. It was all noise, a prelude to the real symphony of their greed. I could feel it building, a pressure threatening to crack their polished facades. Finally, my father leaned forward, his expression shifting into the one I knew from childhood, the let's make a deal face he used on reluctant business partners. Virginia, he began, his voice a low, conspiratorial rumble. It's been 2 years since we lost Grandma Evelyn and Grandpa Austin. We feel it's time. Time we sat down as a family and discussed the estate. The inheritance, the coastal property, it's time to put this to rest. There it was. The mask slipped, and for a breathtaking second, I saw the raw, unvarnished hunger in their eyes. My mother's smile was frozen, a rictus of expectation. Madison had finally put her phone down. They were a tribunal of vultures, and they believed I was the carcass. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee, the warm mug a grounding weight in my hands. Inside, a cold, hard smile was spreading through my soul. They had no idea that the will they sought to challenge was already obsolete, that I had built a fortress around my grandparents' legacy that their greed could never breach. The memory of my grandparents' final gift to me was the armor I wore in that moment. The call had come on a Tuesday, my grandmother's voice thin and frayed at the edges. Virginia, darling, can you come? It's important. I drove the 2 hours to the coast, the winding road a familiar pilgrimage to the only place that had ever truly felt like home. The sprawling house on the cliff, with its wraparound porch and the constant, soothing roar of the ocean, had been my sanctuary since I was 15, the age my parents had decided I was an inconvenient distraction from their ambitious lives. That day, the air in the house was heavy with unspoken words. Grandma Evelyn's hands trembled as she poured the tea. Grandpa Austin cleared his throat, a sure sign of impending gravity. We need to talk about the future, Ginny, he said, using the childhood nickname only they ever used. About what happens to all of this when we're gone. The thought was a physical pain. Don't say that. Your father, Grandma began, her voice barely a whisper, has been calling. He asks about property taxes, market values, if we've considered the financial burden of maintaining this place. She set her cup down with a definitive click. He's had a realtor send him comparable listings. He sees a $3 million asset, not our home. Grandpa's jaw was tight. We will not have our life's work, our memories, sold off to the highest bidder by a son who never understood its worth. We will not have you pushed aside, Virginia. You are our daughter in every way that matters. What followed was 6 months of meticulous, secret planning with a brilliant, no-nonsense estate attorney named Charlotte Reed. We met in sun-drenched living rooms, the scent of salt and old books filling the air as Charlotte constructed a legal masterpiece. "We're establishing a revocable living trust," Charlotte explained, her fingers flying across a legal pad. "The property will be deeded directly into it, removing it from the probate estate entirely. You, Virginia, will be the sole beneficiary and successor trustee." Then came the masterstroke. "We're including a robust no-contest clause," Charlotte said, looking at me pointedly. "If anyone challenges the trust, they automatically forfeit any inheritance. To make it enforceable, we'll leave your parents and sister a modest sum, $50,000 each. Enough to make them think twice about a lawsuit." My grandparents also recorded video depositions, clear, lucid, and emotionally powerful testaments to their wishes. "This is our choice," Grandma Evelyn stated firmly to the camera, her hand in Grandpa's. "Our son has his own fortune. This home, our legacy, belongs to the child who lived in it, who loved us." When they passed, Grandma first, Grandpa following just 2 months later, his heart simply broken, the trust activated seamlessly. There was no probate, no family meeting, no court. The keys, the deed, the responsibility, and the love, it all became mine. Along with it came a letter, written in their shared hand. "Dearest Virginia, we raised you. We know your heart. This house is not just wood and glass, it is our love made tangible. Your parents chose a different path long ago. We trust you to honor what this place meant to us. Do with it what brings you peace." The calls from my parents started within days. They spiraled from confusion to negotiation to outright fury. They hired lawyers, 3 different firms, each of whom reviewed the ironclad trust and told them the same thing: it's unbreakable. Challenge it, and you lose your $50,000. After 18 months of radio silence, I had foolishly believed the battle was over. I was wrong. They had just been regrouping. Back in my living room, the present moment snapped into sharp focus. "So," my mother said, brushing a piece of invisible lint from her sleeve, "we thought, now that you've had time to grieve, we could discuss selling the property. Splitting the proceeds properly, as a family." "Properly," Madison echoed, the word a sharp little dagger. "Equal shares. It's the only fair thing to do, Virginia." I leaned back, feigning contemplation. "Split what, exactly?" My father's face lit up with predatory relief. He thought I was caving. "The house, of course. We've been informally approached by a developer. Oceanfront land like that, we could clear $4 million. Your share would still be over $1 million, even after taxes. It's a win-win. Your share." The audacity was breathtaking. "So," I said slowly, letting the word hang in the air, "you've already found a buyer." "We wanted to be prepared," my mother interjected quickly. "Once you agree, we can move fast. Get this handled. Put it all behind us." Madison nodded, her eyes gleaming. "It's what Grandma and Grandpa would have wanted. Family unity." That was the final straw. The hypocrisy was so profound it was almost beautiful. I stood and walked to my oak desk. Their eyes followed me, a mixture of confusion and burgeoning triumph. I pulled out a simple manila folder and returned to my seat. "What's that?" Madison frowned, her smile faltering. "Documents I filed with the county recorder's office last year," I said, my voice calm and clear as the ocean on a still day. "I thought you might want to see what I decided to do with my inheritance." Madison snatched the folder. Her eyes scanned the first page, then widened in disbelief. She flipped to the next page, and the next, her face draining of all color. This says you created a charitable trust," she stammered, her voice cracking. "The Hawthorne Foundation?" "Yes," I replied, a profound peace settling over me. "Named for Grandma's maiden name. I transferred the property into a charitable remainder unitrust. I receive a 5% annual income from the trust's assets for my life. Upon my death, the entire remainder, the property and all remaining funds, We'll endow a permanent scholarship fund for low-income students studying environmental science and the arts. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the frantic rustle of paper as my father ripped the folder from Madison's grasp. His eyes devoured the text, his face turning a mottled, furious red. You gave it away," he finally roared, surging to his feet. "No," I corrected him, my voice still steady. "I honored it. I structured my inheritance to reflect Grandma and Grandpa's values, to protect the land they loved, and to provide for my future in a way that also gives back. It was my property, Dad. I had every legal right." "But we're family," my mother wailed, real tears now streaming through her makeup. They were tears of frustration, not love. "Family shows up," I said, the words quiet but final. "Family calls. Family cares when there's no money involved. You haven't been my family since you left me on their doorstep 20 years ago." Madison shot up, her finger jabbing toward me. "You can't do this. This is insane. We'll sue you for fraud." "We'll." "I already did it," I interrupted, my tone leaving no room for argument. 18 months ago. The trust is irrevocable. I can't undo it even if I wanted to. You can hire a dozen more lawyers, and they will all tell you the same thing: you have no standing. No claim. The property is gone from my hands, held in perpetuity for a purpose you can never touch. The room erupted into a cacophony of shouted accusations, threats, and raw, sputtering rage. They called me every name they could think of: selfish, cruel, a monster. But their words were just noise now, arrows bouncing off the fortress walls Charlotte and my grandparents had built. "You know," I said, cutting through the chaos, "the first scholarship went out last month. $5,000 to a young woman named Sarah. She's the first in her family to go to college. She wants to be a marine biologist. She wrote me a thank you letter. She said, 'Your generosity has changed my life.'" I looked at each of them in turn, my father, purple with fury, my mother, weeping hollow tears, my sister, glaring with pure hatred. "That," I said softly, "is what Grandma and Grandpa would have wanted. Not a bidding war between developers. Not a family torn apart by greed. A legacy that actually does some good in the world." They left then, a storm of defeated entitlement. My father was silent, a broken king. My mother snatched her cookie tin back from the table. Madison slammed my front door with such force that the walls shook. And then, there was only silence. A deep, resonant, and peaceful silence. That evening, I drove to the coast. The sunset was spectacular, setting the sky on fire in hues of gold and violet. The old house stood serene and strong, its windows reflecting the dying light. I walked through the garden, past my grandmother's rose bushes, and down to the edge of the cliff. The ocean roared below, a constant, powerful presence. This place was safe now. It was more than a house, it was a promise kept. It was a scholarship for a girl named Sarah. It was a testament to the kind of love that builds fortresses, not bank accounts. My parents never contacted me again. I heard through a distant cousin that my father referred to me once in passing as the daughter who chose charity over blood. He never understood. It wasn't about choosing charity over blood. It was about finally understanding that the truest family isn't always defined by blood, but by the legacy of love they leave behind, and the courage it takes to protect it.